A very warm welcome to BBC News, broadcasting to our viewers in North America and around the globe. My name is Tom Donkin. Here are our top stories. North Korea on parade to commemorate its founding father. But as tensions grow, will there be an act of defiance against the West? A simple tactical decision or a show of strength to the world? We assess the impact of America's bomb attack on Afghanistan. We're also on the front line in Iraq as security forces surround the old city of Mosul ahead of an all-out assault.
I only know one truth.
And coming to a screen near you, there's a Star Wars frenzy as fans get their first glimpse of The Last Jedi. Hello and welcome. North Korea is thought to be preparing for a massive military parade, which is due to start in, well, just a few hours. Troops are gathering in the capital to mark the anniversary of the founder of the country, Kim Il-sung. There's speculation that his grandson, the current leader, Kim Jong-un, could carry out a nuclear test. That would be the country's 6th, as it marks the national holiday. Our reporter John Sudworth is in Pyongyang with a group of foreign journalists invited to witness the event, and his movements are being closely monitored.
In North Korea, the spectre of war looms large over daily life. These girls are singing about being soldiers. While not far away, real ones crowd into a shrine to the country's founding president, General Kim Il-sung.
These are scenes akin to a religious pilgrimage, but of course in honor of a still ruling family dynasty who have at their disposal all of the myth that would rival any of the world's great religions.
And as the country prepares to display its devotion at the anniversary of Kim Il-sung's birth this weekend, there's an awareness of the rising tension with America.
We should have the nuclear weapons. If we do not have the nuclear weapons, the nuclear weapon of another country will fall on our soil. It doesn't matter whether the Americans, they make the situation on the Korean Peninsula tense. It doesn't matter. We feel safe because we have the great leader Kim Jong-un.
This week, the current ruler Kim Jong-un held this meeting where his late grandfather was honoured. He's also thought to be planning a massive military parade as a powerful tribute and a message of defiance. This is a country where art and armaments are blended in singular purpose to demonstrate to the watching world that its nuclear ambitions will not be stopped. John Sudworth, BBC News, Pyongyang.
Well, North Korea's army has promised what it called a merciless response to any US provocation, reflecting growing tension about the country's nuclear and weapons programs. China has called for calm, saying it fears conflict could break out at any moment. The appeal came just hours after America dropped a huge bomb on so-called Islamic State militants in Afghanistan. Our security correspondent Frank Gardner reports.
A powerful armada, in the words of President Trump. This is the US Navy's Carl Vinson Carrier battle group, equipped with 90 strike aircraft and other weapons and diverted to the seas off North Korea. Mr. Trump is hoping it'll intimidate that country's isolated regime into abandoning any further nuclear tests or long-range missile launches. China has warned of the imminent danger of a war being triggered on the Korean Peninsula, and North Korea remains defiant, saying it's ready to respond to any attack with nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, the US has dropped an immense bomb. 11 tons of high explosive dropped on an ISIS tunnel complex in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan. The blast was felt 30 miles away. The weapon used is called a MOAB, a massive ordnance airburst, also known as the mother of all bombs. This was its first time used in combat.
This was the right weapon against the right target. We will continue to work shoulder to shoulder with our Afghan comrades to eliminate this threat to the Afghan people, especially the people of Nangarhar, to the people of the entire region, and indeed, the people around the world.
Local villagers confirmed that ISIS fighters had set up bases in the mountains behind them and said the bomb had hit its target. But the strike was condemned by both so-called Islamic State and Afghanistan's former president.
How could the United States use Afghanistan as its ground for experiments, for testing weapons of mass destruction on our soil?
President Trump's targets now include three major problem areas for the US: Afghanistan, Syria, and North Korea. The massive weapon that the Pentagon has used in Afghanistan is intended to send a message to its enemies that you're not safe underground. In Syria, the Trump administration will be hoping that last week's cruise missile strike will deter President Assad from any further chemical attacks. But North Korea is the biggest gamble. Mr. Trump is hoping that sending this powerful naval armada offshore will deter any further nuclear tests. The question now, though, is can he manage three global crises simultaneously?
It's very possible that if these three scenarios come together, Syria, Afghanistan and North Korea, that it would overwhelm the policy-making capabilities of Mr. Trump's administration, it would overwhelm the strategic planning capabilities of the Pentagon, and it would overwhelm the resource capabilities of the US military.
But President Trump and his entourage now feel they're on a roll, tackling head-on the foreign policy challenges the previous administration was unable to resolve. There is now the risk that ramping up the rhetoric could lead America into more conflict, or that in the absence of any swift resolutions, Mr. Trump may simply turn his back on foreign adventures and focus instead on domestic issues. Frank Gardner, BBC News.
So what do we know about Donald Trump's strategy so far? Well, the BBC's Laura Bicker is in Washington.
Donald Trump has sent what he's described as a very powerful armada, a naval strike force to the Korean Peninsula. They are there and standing by just in case that North Korea intends to carry out a sixth nuclear test. Donald Trump in the past has used language like it won't happen, and within the last few hours he said North Korea is doing the wrong thing, making a big mistake. Remember, this is a president that within the last week alone has shown that not only is he willing to act, he's willing to act without warning. Consider that Syrian strike just last week. He casually turned to the president of China over dinner while remarking about how nice the chocolate cake is. He then turns around and says he sent 59 cruise missiles to Syria. That is a strong message that not only is he sending to China, but is sending to China's neighbours in North Korea. He's trying to tell the world that there's a new sheriff in town, that there is a man in the White House who, unlike his predecessor, is willing to act and cross when he said there's going to be a red line, and if anyone crosses it, he's willing to act upon it.
And of course we've seen the US deploying some naval force around the Korean Peninsula. It won't have gone unnoticed that it's a sensitive time to be doing that, even if, as we're being told, Secretary of State is saying it's, it's just routine.
They're saying it's routine, but yes, they are in an area, in a very sensitive area, at a time when North Korea may be perhaps preparing to launch its sixth nuclear test. So it can't be perhaps entirely by accident. But what Donald Trump's long-term strategy when it comes to dealing with each of these foreign crises is right now is unclear. What we're looking at is a president who is now giving more leeway to his generals at the Pentagon. He also appears to be listening to them for the moment. He has surrounded himself by experts when it comes to the fields, military fields. He's surrounded himself by generals that he feels he trusts and whose advice he is listening to. But this is also a very unpredictable President Trump. And he's also a very avid Twitter fan, so everything can change in 140 characters or less.
That was the BBC's Laura Bickett talking to my colleague Ben Bland a little earlier.